in and access the extension webinar today successfully. We are going to be having a presentation today that is a second part of the installment of our paradigm shift with airlift. Dr. Benny Roon and Glenn Martinez are going to be speaking to you today. If you have any technical difficulties, please feel free to contact me in the chat box or at themaxwell24@gmail.com. We are going to have a post-webinar survey. This is your way to give us feedback so we can improve and get ideas for our next series of webinars. So if you could, please go to the following link. It should be popping up in the text box right now after this webinar, and give us your feedback. We really appreciate getting feedback from you. It helps us in our future endeavors, especially with these webinars. And without further ado, Benny, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Aloha, and welcome again to our webinar. And I'm here with Glenn Martinez from Olomana Garden. And he is the owner and the inventor, and with Natalie Kesh, the farm manager.
Aloha, Glenn here. This is Natalie.
Aloha, Natalie.
And what we will do, just prior to going through the whole thing, I would like to share with you a video that we have produced just to introduce you the idea of what the future is holding for us. What we will have now is the video, and I hope everybody can see the video. And we're gonna see now, Glenn will take over to explain to you what we see.
Okay, this is a little YouTube video that Benny put up. It's cut and excerpts from a larger film. It's up on YouTube, and we give you guys a link so you can listen to it with the sound. On this little webinar here, in the methodology we're using, they're not able to show the sound where I'm speaking right now. So I'm just going to give you a little narration about what we're talking about. In the very first part here, we're talking about why use the airlift pumps. And basically some of the talking points on that is because we're able to lock up the air pumps inside a secure building. In that way, we just run an air hose out. We don't have to hire a licensed electrical contractor and have electricity out in the garden. This is really important for school systems. And then so we're going over, I'm talking about the different benefits such as that is pumping solids up to the fish poop, can go through the air pumps. You don't have to worry about them running dry and that kind of stuff. Where you have a mechanical pump in there, you would have to worry about a rock jamming it up or the fish poop itself jamming it up. So we're going to go over all the different advantages, basically about 10 advantages of using airlifts over using a mechanical pump. After which time, after I give this little brief introduction, we will start to show you how we actually integrate it into system. This is a little test system we did with Consuelo Foundation. We took it down to the Philippines, and it travels in a golf bag. This whole thing comes apart, and there I'm showing one of our pumps and how we can pick up solids in that, and we can send them through the pumps, and it shoots through. And I'm describing how it works and how you can build one. They have 3 different systems set up out here in the yard, all running on a 40-watt pump. And so I'm showing there that's the ambient water level that we normally do. Now, all of our pumps are at least 24 inches high. Most airlifts only lift about 6 inches. So this is a big difference. Then we're going to jump over. We're going to show you a typical little backyard aquaponic system. That's the fish tank, 140 to 200 gallon typically. We'll use an air pump, and that air pump, as you see there, is along the ground. And if I can put my mouse here, you see there where I have my hands there where I'm showing you there? There's a check valve, and I'm describing how the air comes in there. The air will come over and go up that riser. And it comes up over here. And then I'm going to lift off that for you to show you that the water burps out. And unfortunately, that plant decided to leave the scene there. It's a little tragedy in gardening. But we like to show you that we burp the water up. So the water not only physically moves, but it's aerated at the same time. And this is a little silencer that's up on top of it because you are burping it. Burp, burp, burp. So that's a little silencer, and we show you how you can do it. When you see how simple it is, you realize, heck, it's one of those things you say, hey, I can make that. You know, very, very simple little device, and it just quiets it right down. This is important when you're in a townhouse situation, let me tell you. You know, not all neighbors appreciate the sound of gurgling water. And so this is a very practical system. We show how we use 3 cinder beds, double trays, how we have a bucket siphon down here at the end down here, and the water's going to fill up and that. So I describe how it works and why it works, and really encourage you to go watch this little YouTube. We're going to be covering this in today's webinar and that. Now this is the little aquaport. Dr. Benny Ron encouraged me to build this one about 2 years ago. This is about the 8th version of it. Everything you see there fits inside that little Stanley toolbox, and the lid closes up. And Natalie and I have taken it to over 5 countries where we just go as our airplane luggage. And what I'm able to do with this system in the University of Hawaii is to show all the principles of the aquaponic. One, using the airlift system to burp the water up, to aerate it, to put it into the cinder bed, and then I describe how that pump works, how we use those little quiet air compressors to run it, you know. So it's extremely practical little demonstration system. And we make and sell those at Olomana Gardens. We put up the diagrams how to do it, and we'll be showing you how to build your own here in these webinars. We're going to be doing these about once a month, and every month we're trying to introduce a new principle concept, and more importantly, show you how to build your own. So it's a very practical aspect. By the way, this is where Natalie and I live. This is Olomana Gardens. This is our farm. It's an organic farm based on permaculture principles. So everything we want to do needs to fill those permaculture principles of being energy saving and being extremely practical, okay? And so here I'm talking about the pump and how practical it is, how low cost they are, how easy they are to rebuild and to fabricate. Also, notice the green hose running across the lawn there. The air right now that I'm driving it on was over 60 feet away. Here we jumped over to a little test rig I have in my backyard. Notice that Natalie is holding the cell phone there. That's Benny Ron's cell phone there. She's going to time how long it takes this pump up here to pump. Notice that flow of water? Well, we need to know how long. So we teach all of our students to use a 5-gallon bucket and a stopwatch you see here and time how long that bucket's sinking in the water in the tank there, and we'll time just how many seconds it takes. So here we come up to the thing is full, and then I talk about, well, if it takes 22 seconds, just for easy math, say it was 20 seconds. Well, if you can fill up 5 gallons in 20 seconds, 20 goes into 60 a minute 3 times. 3 times 5 is 15. That's 15 gallons a minute. If you do 15 gallons a minute, that's times 60. That's 900 gallons an hour. So it shows you how we calculate. When you hear us talking about doing 1,200 gallons an hour, how do I prove that to you? Well, I fill up a 5-gallon bucket in 15 seconds. That's how I prove it to you. And so these are test rigs here. We're showing you here, like we have a fish tank mounted 4 feet off the ground, hooked up to a well, and we drop the air pump. Notice the green hose here? That's not a water hose. That's an air hose pumping the air into this pump to get this 900 gallons an hour going. And so we describe it for you. This is on our property. This is a little stream that runs through, and that water is 20 feet below the bridge. So you get me down there in the muck and the mire and the mosquitoes, and I'm showing a little submersible pump here at the bottom that you see, and the green hose, you see the green hose? That's bringing air in. We inject the air in, and we send the air up 20 feet, and I'm able to pump 450 gallons an hour up out of the stream. So this is a bridge that Benny had been filming from, and now he has me up at the top. This is what it looks like at the top. We try to show the practicalness of what we're dealing with here, folks. This is a 1-inch pump running on, I have this one running on 260-watt pumps for a double lift, and up at the top of it is this separator. If you got air and water coming up a pipe, we need to show you how are you going to separate it? How are you going to have the air go out the top and the water come out this little 2-inch pipe here? It dumps into here, and then horizontally it goes across the yard to where I want it to be. So I'm going to lift that off for you. We're going to show you the butterfly valve there. How do you like that? So the water comes up, and we tell you why. Because it's going to go to the left and the right, and it's going to hit the clear chamber we had on there, and it's going to fall down into this 2-inch pipe which is the lift, and that's where it comes out in the fish pond. That's over 100 feet away horizontally. So the pipe's just laid on the ground, go 200 feet. This side over here is only about a foot high. Where we put the water in was about 3 foot high. So the water seeking its own level, it comes out the lower end. Now we're going to jump over to show you one of the burper pumps that we have in the yard. And we're showing you that air separator, how it comes up.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. And what we're going to do now, we're going to go back to the sharing.
Stop sharing. Pull down.
Pull down.
We'll go to the last one, recently shared.
Recently shared. Aquaponics. Okay, so we're back at the presentation. Thank you.
We had a couple of questions before you started. Eddie asked what has smoothed out the flow from this larger system. It's not burping like this smaller one.
Okay, we're going to get there. I think we'll move forward, but we were going to get into this, and there is technical explanation. And I wrote this question to me, talking about what makes the water flow smooth and not in pulses as it is expected from an airlift burping pump. So Glenn will explain that, but I want to move forward, and please keep your questions. And we're gonna. There was another question after that, and which related to how the butterfly works, and we'll explain that too. So we will take all these questions, put them together, and Vanessa, you can always remind me if I forgot any of the questions.
Give a quick answer.
Do you want to give a quick question?
Sure, I love a quick answer.
So Glenn's going to give the quick answer about how he makes this flow go smooth.
When you have the water coming in, it's burping up, and let's say it's the equivalent of a half a quart of water being burped each time. If you took a bowl of water and it had an overflow tank in it or flowing out, if you simply poured a glass of water in it, one right after the other, that'd be like burping. You'd be an intermittent input. But watch the overflow. It smooths it out. So when we fill it up, you'll notice in the burper, it burps up and the water falls down. It exits out in a 2-inch pipe, and that backs up a little bit, and then we narrow it down to a 1-inch pipe. And so there, out of the 1-inch, it'll look like it's a continuous flow because it's just being backed up. And it just gives me a nice regular thing. And also, I'm able to separate the air out and let it go free. It's like, think about a motorcycle. If you have a muffler on it, you wouldn't want to stick a potato up there and not let the exhaust go out. So we need to let the air go free. And once we do that, the flow of the water smooths right out.
If I may also add something, what you can find, and I will show it in the next slides, and this is related to the geyser pump, that you basically lock quantities of water with the air, and then you put some pressure. The air start accumulating, and it puts a lot of pressure on the hydraulics, which is the water. And then when it comes to a certain, what we call it, critical mass, the air just shoots that particular given quantity of water up. And then the pressure is being released, and there's not enough air to push the next quantity of water. So it stops basically pushing. And then there is a lag of time, then water is not coming until the next cycle of air being built and pressure is being built to shoot up the next given quantity of water. So with the geyser pump, for sure, you're going to have those burping phenomena. What Glenn is doing, and this is the innovation here, he's making sure that the air also has, on one hand, enough power to push the water, but at the same time to being released in a way that you get a smooth flow. And we're going to get into the technicalities later. Let's go to the next slide now. Let me see if I'm okay. So I want to thank also Vanessa. Without her, we would not have this wonderful series. And I recommend everybody to register to extension. And if you have any question how to do that, to this extension community of practice, Vanessa will be happy to guide you. And again, I would like to give you some information about Glenn Martinez and the Olomana Gardens. And I have here the website in case you want to look at it and get in touch directly with Glenn. Go to the next one. I just wanted to remind you that when we went to American Samoa in October 2011 with Glenn and Natalie, and I have to really thank NOAA and University of Hawaii Sea Grant for supporting us to go there and work together with American Samoa Community College and with the Sea Grant agent, the University of Hawaii Sea Grant agent, Ephraim Temple over there who hosted us, and with Dr. Dan Anga, the director and dean of the land grant in the community college there. And so we encountered some problems with bringing up the water into the fish tanks. And as a result, we had to pick the brains a little bit and see how we can bring the water from depth that when people buried the tanks in the ground. And also some of our clientele were worried that people would just come and pick up the water pump from the tanks and go away with it. And they wanted the ladies even ask us to have the pump next to her TV. So we decided that the only pump that can be there can be a air pump. Right. And so we were taking all the way garden hose all the way from the TV, from the air pump, all the way out. It was over 50 yards into the into airlift system that Glenn built over there to provide the water from the fish tanks all the way up into the growing beds where she grew her taro. And you can see here on my right side, which is on the left of the picture, our first, I think this is our first airlift system in American Samoa. And you can see the smiling faces. This is Ephraim Temple, Troy, Natalie, Glenn, and the rest of the guys that work with us. And the way we did this workshop actually was, it was a moving workshop where we went from place to place and built aquaponic systems with airlift systems, and everybody worked together to build it, including the people that were the clientele that we built for them that system. And this what allowed everybody to get practice. And by the end of the week, I would say everybody were quite confident on building systems over there. I would like just to remind everybody, those who were not here the last time and did not have the chance to see the recording, that Vanessa so kindly saved it on the Freshwater Community of Practice, and she can again show you where it is. You can see all the recordings, and also this presentation and webinar are going to be recorded, and within a few days you'll be able to share with it or watch it again for more information. So the principles by which airlift pump is operating is the only energy required is provided by compressed air. And the compressor is quite small and save a lot of energy. And this air is usually compressed by a compressor or blower, as Glenn showed already. The air is injected in the lower part of the pipe. So don't inject it in the upper part because it's not going to work. It needs to come underneath the water or within the column where the water is in order to transport the water. It usually bubbles into another larger diameter pipe. And we can go into the details. By the buoyancy, the air which has lower density than the liquid rises quickly. By the fluid pressure, the liquid is taken in ascendant airflow and moves in the same direction as the air. So the calculation of the volume flow and liquid is possible if you look at the physics of a two-phase flow. And airlift pump technology is superb due to its simple structure. And as Glenn said, there's no moving parts. The bottom line, the only moving part is the diaphragm that's sitting sometimes I would say 50 to 100 yards away actually with your fish tank and your water system, so you don't have to worry about, because where it is in the fish tank or next to the fish tank, there are no moving parts. The only moving part is a one-way valve that Glenn assembled. This is a great idea to make sure that the air and the water can go only one direction, so the air cannot come back and block. So this way it forces the air and the water going only one direction, and this is from the fish tank onto the growing beds. So over here you see the simple, maybe the first airlift pump, where you see how the air is injected, and then you have here this two-phase that of water, and the heavy water is around, and then everything, the water is basically with the air bubbles are pushed up into where you want it. Now this is not the most efficient way, so then the geyser pump came about, and now the whole idea is to have a chamber where you lock the air over there until it comes to a particular critical mass, and when this critical mass is locking up water in between, and it has enough power to push chunks of water out, and this is exactly where the barping coming, and this is where you have those pulses of water coming out, pulses of water and pulses of air coming right after that, and to the next cycle of pulses. And this was related to the question that was asked, and Glenn was able to find a solution for it. Now, this is the setup that Glenn was building. He can wrap it up together and go together to places around the world, basically, like in a suitcase kind of type. And you wrap it up.
Golf bags.
Like a golf bag, exactly. Yeah. And then it's a basically more demonstration system. And so what I'll do at this point in time, I will give Glenn the mouse, and Glenn will take you through, and the slides are going to be, changed over here, and Glenn will explain to you how this display, and then we're going to see the other pictures that will show you how to go about on some of the systems. Now, I would like to stress the point that this webinar, we're going to give you a demonstration of the basics. We'll give you some examples. In the end, we have some photos of technical, basically drawing that were made by Liz Martinez, Glenn's wife, who was working very hard to put together things in a technical way. And this is a provisional patenting that Glenn is going through, but is willing to share it with everybody because he understands how important it is for the aquaponic community. So Glenn, I'm giving you the mouse, and you explain to everybody how this goes about.
Right on. We'll start off here on the ground. You see the little green hose here? This is where the air is coming in. On this particular one, it's on a 40-watt system. That's 40 watts of electricity, and by coincidence, it happens to be 40 liters per minute. Also, we run the pumps on solar panels. See the little solar panels over here? We use them on this. This is a little $200 system from Home Depot or Lowe's type of system. Now, when this one was actually running, we had it hooked up to a professional 2x3 foot or 2x4 foot panel, 140 watt panel, and we pump the air out here. As Benny mentioned there, that we put the air pumps normally in people's houses. This is because when you're in American Samoa, the Philippines, Korea, or China, and actually here in Hawaii, anything left outside is a gift. So particularly it seems in public schools. I go put aquaponic systems in a public school. If I put a little submersible pump that's $135 to $200 into a public place that's unsecured, I will not have a pump in the morning. It's just a fact of life. So what we found out is it's better that I run a garden hose out here and have the air pump, the $150 to $200 air pump, securely locked up in a classroom or in a person's house. As he mentioned, some of them say put it right there by the TV so they can keep it. They got to keep their eyes on it. The other one is, when we came up with the advantage of having it locked up and secured, then you notice you only have a garden hose. Well, maybe you want to mow the grass, so you decide, I'll just make a little shallow 2-inch trench and bury the hose or a piece of PVC. You don't need a licensed contractor for that. It's just an empty hose or a piece of pipe. So we have the advantage of nothing being out there. Imagine also that you're going to be working with school children. who needs to have electricity and water around school children? If you ever watch a child pick up a submersible pump, they'll grab the electrical cord and pick it up by the electrical cord. That's not something a teacher wants to see. So now we got this air here coming into here. Notice the air hose is now going up, and it comes into here, and this is about 4 or 5 of those little Y valves you use in the lawn. I have a saying that aquaponics is for boys and girls who have outgrown train sets. But this is like my little switching track. If the air comes in here, I can adjust all the valves in one direction and send the air down this way, or I can change it and have the air make a U-turn and come down and go around this way, or I can switch it and come over this way. So here I have 3 separate pumps done up. And Minnie's got films of these running, as you saw in that little opening one there. And let's describe them one at a time. If I have the air coming in this tall green hose here, coming up, and I'm going to switch the valve such that we send it in this green hose around, and let's say we come, let's do this top one here. We'll do this one here, because this is a demonstration of one of the earliest airlifts ever made. The air comes in here, and this is just 3/4 inch PVC. This is a 2-inch to 3/4 reducer, and I take a little Dremel tool, and I grind it out such that the 3/4 inch pipe can go all the way through, make a 90, and come up. And in here, if you got good eyes, you'll see that it's plugged, and there's holes in that 3/4 inch pipe. The air bubbles out of that, bubbles up into a clear tube, is reduced down to 1 inch, and comes all the way up. Now, that's important that you notice that, because, see, the water level is that black tape there. That's the water level. We fill the system up before we test run it. So this white pipe you see here is just a water reservoir. Now, when I bubble up the air in here, it's going to lift the water up, comes up here, and see where the red tape is there? From that point on, that becomes the separator.
Hold a second. We've been asked, people cannot see let's see if this arrow, this is the pointer. Okay, let's see if we can use the pointer. I don't know, they have a better pointer. Can you see the pointers, guys? Rachel, can you see it? Everybody can see it now? All right, thank you, Jeannie. You see, that's why we have Jeannie to help us. She is a genie. Okay, go ahead. So you click and you move it around like that. Okay, mahalo.
Oh, very good. So, if this, I'm going to grab the pointer. This is my green hose bringing in the air. We're going to come up. We're going to come up this hose here. We're going to sweat the little valves here. We're going to send the air around this hose here. We're going to go down here, and we're going to come into the 3/4 inch white PVC pipe, come into here, and here, that's right where I drill the holes in the white PVC pipe. That is underwater, because the water has been filled up to this black mark right here, okay?
No.
Don't push any more buttons, huh?
Yeah. Okay.
PhD, huh?
Don't
push here, dummy. Yeah, okay. So the water level is to here. Now my trick is to turn on the air, and this is something the French and the Germans came up with back around 1790 or so. They pumped the air up when it came up to here, and now this is a little trick we came up with at Olomana Gardens, and that is, this is a separator. This is an 1.5 inch T. Notice the 1 inch pipe goes through it. Well, I go through about 4 inches, and it blasts the air and the water up in here, and it falls down. The air goes out the top, the water comes out here, and it will appear to be a continuous flow, okay? And then that water is going to fall back into here.
No, Glenn, you need to click and move.
I'm going to click and move. It's going to move down here, and the water is going to fall down. It's going to come down to the bottom, and it's going to come over. So this water is going in a circle, following the green arrow. See there? It's a recirculating. And so it's going to go around and around. In the video, you'll be able to see that, okay? So that's one kind. Now, the important thing to note is that the air is continuously coming in. It's continuously being released. So if your pump is rated for 2 psi, that water is going to be released at the 2 psi at the volume that the water puts out. Now, this is the old-fashioned way, where the speed of the pump is the speed of these bubbles coming up, okay? And that's a known scientific fact, that the speed those bubbles are going to come up. Now, as they come up, they do get a little larger as they're coming up, and it comes up. But basically, it's reducing the density of the water, and you have the friction of the bubble going up, and there's arguments about, if the smaller the air bubble is, the more surface tension you get, the better blockage you get, and you lift it up. Okay? Now that's one style. Now,
Can I just
Sure.
mention something?
yeah.
And now, if we look, Glenn just went through it really quickly. You see this area and this valve, and I mentioned this valve last time in the first webinar. And this is related to the question of the pulses, of the barping. And so, like Glenn said, this is the real trick over here.
Mhm.
That this is where Glenn, actually one of the nice inventions that he came up, is by putting here, shooting up in a small diameter, and the water and the air are flying right up this pipe. If this pipe was not here, it would sprinkle all over around us. So it goes up, and when it falls down again, the air moving up into the atmosphere, and the water falls down by gravity, but at this time it cannot go into the small diameter pipe that in the center, and it falls into the sides of the inside of the 2-inch pipe. And this is the trap, basically, or Glenn sometimes call it a collector. And when it happens all the time, even if it comes in pulses, what you see over here coming out is smooth.
Mhm.
Now, this is yours again. Here's the arrow. Hit the arrow.
So
Click on it
I'm going to go find my arrow here. I'm going to click on my arrow.
and move it around.
So now you see here, the air comes in the white pipe and the air comes out the white pipe and released in the water. What Natalie and I did is we reversed that entirely in our version. In our version, see this clear pipe here? And the water's going to be filled up to the black there, right? And now this one, the recirculation is going to be this way. This will be the flow when we turn it on, okay? Now on this one, we do something rather clever. We take the 1-inch pipe, same 1-inch pipe, it goes through a 1.5-inch T-fitting, and there's a reducer here, 1.5 to 1 inch, and I've drilled it out, letting that 1-inch pipe come all the way down to where you see this white ring. And this white ring here is a captive ring, and that is size. It goes over the 1-inch pipe, but fits inside the 1.5-inch pipe. Okay? So, watch this, folks. Let's go back to the air. Here's your air coming in, and this time I'm going to switch my train tracks to send the air over here on this green hose, bring it up to here, and I'm going to inject the air into there. Now, if the air comes in, it's going into the 1.5-inch pipe. It cannot get out that reducer, the 1.5 to 1 reducer, so the air is forced down between the 1-inch pipe and the 1.5-inch pipe, all the way to the bottom here, and inside there, right where the green arrow there, in the 1-inch pipe, I drilled a bunch of little 1/8 or 1/16-inch holes, and the air will then enter from the 1.5 pipe, air cavity, into the 1-inch pipe. Keep in mind, the 1-inch pipe is sitting in a puddle of water, right? Remember, the water was filled right up to here? So if I'm releasing air underneath the water and the 1-inch pipe is open to that water, the water comes in, goes past the air grabs it, and up it goes together. What you'll find out when you watch the videos of this, and you go to our Olomana Garden website and see videos, or you go up to YouTube and you click Olomana Gardens, you'll see different videos people have shot. You'll see this water shooting up here, fall down, and then go out. Same collector. Notice that this collector and this collector and this collector over here, all of our pumps, it's the same collector. No matter how I get the air and water up, I've got to separate it. We're going to show you later in this webinar that if I take this collector and I raise it up 25 feet high, I can pump like 200 gallons an hour, 25 feet high with a methodology like this. And on this one, you're going to see in the videos, the water comes over here. This is a 1-inch pipe. The 1-inch pipe goes inside of a 2-inch pipe, and this is open to the atmosphere. And that water falls down. You're going to see this being 100% bubble. We nickname it the bubblification device. And what it is, it's a phenomena of water falling into a closed space. The water's going down, because remember we're recirculating here, correct? So it's open at the bottom. The water's definitely going to go out, but the air keeps trying to go up. So you have a phenomenon of the air going in and out, okay? So let's do one more. Let's come back over to our source here. And this one, air is coming in, and I'm going to set the train tracks, these little garden Ys, I'm going to set them all to go this way. and I'm going to send the air down this white PVC pipe, and then there's a clear section. It's always empty. It's always full of air. Water will never come up in here once I turn it on. When I turn it on, the air is going to come down here, and it's going to compress horizontally in this 1.5-inch piece of pipe. The air doesn't know whether to go to the left here or to go to the right. But if it does go to the right, the air is going to push the water down, and that's going to close the check valve. That's the only moving part in this pump. Now, the other two pumps we showed you, the French-German model over here or my Olomana guard model, they have no moving part. This is the only pump I use with a moving part, okay? That check valve. Now, let's watch the water flow. If this is my reservoir filled up to this black line here, all the pipes all the way across are all filled up, we flip on the on switch, this water is going to go down, it's going to go through the one-way check valve, it's going to come up here, and it's going to fill all the way up here because water seeks its own level. Now you flip on the switch. The air comes down this pipe, compresses, closes the valve, can't get out that way, looks behind it, comes over here, and it bursts. Because now you've built up, you push the air, it's compressed the water maybe down a halfway, comes over here and bursts in one big slug. Forget tiny bubbles, forget surface tension, forget the displacement. What you've got is a slug of air that's being compressed anywhere from 2 to 5 psi, and it's going to surge and go up. And one great big solid slug of water, it goes throwing up here. Notice this pipe's a little higher than the other one. That's because it throws it really high. It will throw it all the way up here. It will fall back down and exit stage right, come back to the reservoir, and come around again. So now, by the way, this reservoir here, this would normally be your fish tank, right? So you would just plug this into the side of the fish tank. Remember in the little trailer we showed you in the aquaport? This little valve right here was just plugged into the Stanley toolbox, which was our fish tank. So the fish tank water would just seek its own level to the level of the fish tank. It might only be 24 inches high. And we've shown repeatedly, I can take water that's only a 24-inch depth, and I can throw it 12 to 15 feet high at meaningful levels of flow. When we say meaningful levels, it has to be at least 150 gallons an hour, or we don't proceed. And we go right up to 3,600 gallons per hour. That's filling a 5-gallon bucket of water in 5 seconds. A gallon a second, folks. And if you can show me in aquaponics, I'll just put it this way. I think pumping 3,600 gallons an hour will satisfy the needs of the most aggressive backyard aquaponic guy I know. In fact, we use them in commercial systems.
I have a question here that not only remind me that can you explain the audience the reason for using the check valve versus not using the check valve? Because this check valve, and I always bother you to make them transparent so everybody can see it, and it costs an arm and a leg, to have everything transparent. But we can see the value of it when we do education. We give those webinars. If you see only white PVC, guys, you don't always understand or you don't see things. So can you concentrate just on the check valve, because this is something that you really invented with not only to have this accomplished.
Right. All right. If you took out the check valve here and you put compressed air here, the compressed air would come over here. And let's say your fish tank was only 24 inches deep. That'd be about here, okay? If it was only 24 inches deep, the air says, wow, I'll just come over here and bubble out backwards and come out the fish tank. Why should I come over here and go up 6 feet high? No way, Jose, okay? So what we found out, if we put a check valve, the fish tank water will push itself in. Water wanting to seek its own level, it comes over here and goes up. Now, when the air comes in and it pushes over and it closes the check valve, because there's only 24 inches of pressure here. And most of y'all will know that water has 1/2 psi per foot of water going up generally, okay? So if I have 24 inches deep of water, I've got 1 psi wanting to go in this direction, okay? My air pump is 2 psi. This little, wow, boy, I screwed that up.
Yes, you did.
My little thumb got in the way.
Oh, now all you have to do is just do this. You don't have to
more
push
better.
anything. More better, huh?
No more PhD. No more push here.
No more
All right,
pushing.
see here. Okay, this is more better. See how things get discovered? See? Yeah. By the way, sometimes I'll use the expression, I invented something. In truth, when I invented it, it may be that I'm making a personal discovery, okay, which I'm sharing with you, because you may have not made that personal discovery. But somebody might come along and say, you know what, some German dude or some French dude or some English dude invented this 10 years ago or 100 years ago. The fact is, we don't know about it. So we're making a personal discovery. Then we put that personal discovery on paper, we send it into the patent office, and they go, wow, Glenn, you're the first guy to tell us about it. That's when I get a patent, okay? But I use that word inventing a little loosely there, okay? So,
By the way, when you finish explaining about the valve, why don't you also explain, the valve always go, if everybody noticed, with 245 degrees, 2-inch PVC pipe. And this is another thing that, they always come together. Why? So when you explain that.
Okay. So the water is going to come through here. There are two kind of valves in the world, okay? There is the gravity swing valve, which this is. It is hinged at the top. And right here by the arrow, it says in very small print, this side up if mounting horizontal. That's because it has to swing up. The gate is swinging in this. I'll move the arrow in the way that the gate would swing, okay? Can you see that if you installed it upside down, it would just fall open and stay open? So that's mistake number one. You got to do it right side up. Mistake number two is putting it in the reverse direction, okay? If you do that, the air just comes in, continuously bubbles in, and the water can't get in. So first, put it in the right direction. Second, put it right side up, okay?
Yeah.
It's like a landscape friend of mine. We were standing talking, and his workers were out, and they were laying out a lawn, okay? And every few moments, he would hold his hand up and tell me to take a pause. He'd turn to his workers and yell out, green side up! Green side up! So I would like to say that we've never made a mistake.
Oh, well.
But we now put a green on the top of it. We paint this green. We say green side up, okay? Because otherwise it's not going to work. The magic of the 45s. This can be 245s or 290s, okay? Either way, you got to go uphill. We do 45s because, I'll give you an example. In a 2-inch piece of pipe, you have a pump hook up to a 25, you're running it. Every 100-foot length of that pipe, the charts will tell you is equal to 6.5 foot of rise. That's the friction of the water going through the pipe. The next thing on the chart it says is if you go to a 90-degree bend, it's equivalent to 1.5 foot of rise. So if I did 290s here, it would be as if the water had to go through 2 times 1.5, 3 foot of rise friction. So forget using 90s, okay? Let's look at the chart and see a 2-inch. 2 inches is equal to a 245s is equal only to 2 inches of rise. So we're going to use 245s. In other words, the flow of water going through 245s is a fraction of what it is going through a 90 here like this, okay? All right? So we have the 45s. What's it all about? Let's see, the air is coming down here. The air is going to push, and if this was clear right here, and if I had another $200, that would have been clear across there. The air pushes down, it's going to push against solid water, and solid water is going to be pushed against that check valve, slamming that guy closed. If this was straight across here, the air would sneak around that little valve, and the air would burp back up here, and you see bubbles going backwards. Some water would get through, but you see bubbles coming back through and going up there. So here's the secret, guys. Put the 245s, the air bubble here will push down. Now, when it's about halfway down here, guess what? By that time, it's broken free over here, and it burst up there. And when this on a clear pipe here, which you'll see in the one we do with the Aquaport, we have all clear, you'll see that there's a long bubble. I like to make this piece here about 8 inches long between here and there. That gives me an 8-inch long bubble that's halfway compressed in the pipe. It bubbles over and it shoots up, okay? Some of the tricks of the trade when you're building one of those, you put the 45 to have solid water. From this point right here to over to there, we aim it down about 5 degrees. You know why? It makes the bubble be like a slope. Can you picture that? It'd be in a slope. The bubble would be high here. It'd be low down there. That makes it more solid water coming that way. And when it does burp, I've got a bigger bubble. Bigger bubble gives me a bigger burst up. And this is the pipe. I can send the water up 25 foot high with this. Okay? Now, true, the higher I go, the less water I get. But if you got water in a well, let's say, and it's 20 feet down, you might be happy with 100 gallons an hour as opposed to hauling it up in a 5-gallon bucket. So it's all relative. But at this rate here, when we turn this one on in the video, we run this around, we take and we disconnect this pipe where it goes back to the recirculation, and we show you that this little pump on 40 watts pumps 300 gallons an hour, okay? I got a little note up here. I'd like to acknowledge Dr. Timmons. I'd like to acknowledge him. He's with, I believe it's Cornell University. He wrote a book called Recirculating Aquaculture.
Together with James Evelyn.
Yeah, with Daniel Evelyn. And I've shared the stage with Evelyn. I was keynote speaker at the Aquaponics conference, and Evelyn was there. And I kept mentioning Dr. Timmons because Dr. Timmons wrote this book. Now, it's in the $130 category of Bibles, as textbooks tend to be. Somewhere in there, in the 300th page in there, he has about 2 pages where he talks about airlifts, and he gave me the hint of doing the well, of having that the deeper that I put this water in, the higher I can pump it up. So you notice here where we say this black here, the black tape here is the water level. What Dr. Timmons taught me is if I do this, I get one rate of pumping. But if I were to come over here, and instead of coming horizontal here, if I were to put this in a well and take this point of input and have it be, say, 3 feet down in the ground in a well or a reservoir, I would pump much, much higher. And we'll be covering that later in the seminar about getting the average depth. Okay, Benny, you had something?
So I just want to thank you very much, and I want just to move to the next one. We already talked about the different types of airlift pumps here. Glenn mentioned already the needed for the hose, and all these valves are basically to divert the water to the different demonstrations.
Divert the air.
Divert the air. Very good, and show how it works. Now, Glenn will explain to you a little bit about the how the water is being pushed by the. How are we going to make it now move? Let me see. That's the trick here. Let me see if it's gonna.
You make it red.
No, and now, why don't you push the thing until the next time it's, or maybe we'll do the setting. I don't know.
I pushed the side button, the thumb button.
No.
Okay.
Close.
Screw around
I don't know. Maybe we can do that. Let me see.
So you can tell when you're doing it live. You have the pressure that you could just screw this whole thing up. Huh?
What is it? Allow, blah, blah, blah. I don't know.
Click on allow.
On allow?
Yeah.
On this one?
Yeah.
What's happening?
I have no idea.
Let's see. What is it? Allow, connect, da. No. We don't remember.
Gentlemen, what is it that you're trying to do?
We try to make sure that the arrow gonna stay with us.
Okay.
And I don't know if I push the right thing. Oh, here we go. Let me see. Let's close this thing. I don't know what did I do. But the arrow, we have to push the button all the time. So, okay, you keep pushing.
Yeah. Okay, I'll keep.
Be a PhD, you know.
I will, as we say in the trade, push on. Okay?
Go ahead.
Okay.
That's the Aquaport system.
Okay, here's the Aquaport system. Vanessa, is there any way to make this arrow red? Since I'm on a green lawn, I've got a green arrow.
No, I'm afraid not. It's only green.
Okay.
We
These are
only
green.
we
Okay.
only do green stuff over
Okay.
here, you know.
I'll try to keep it on a darker background. This is a $75 Stanley toolbox from Home Depot. Okay, it's on wheels. See the wheels there? It also has a pull-out handle here. So when everything you see here in this picture folds up and goes inside this tank, and the lid is the back shelf here, closes up, and the whole thing goes on as a 70-pound luggage, and I fly internationally with this thing. Now, when I get where I'm going, I open up the lid, I attach little legs on the back on this shelf, and then I pull out this little fitting. It's just a 2-inch sink drain. I screw it into place. I put a union on here. It just lets me connect my pipe, and I pre-glued all this together so it doesn't pop apart in the middle of a demonstration for me. But let's watch over it. When you come here, you see the angle going down? That's because I had to put the sink drain up on the side, okay? I want to buy back that depth because it's like 5 inches high. If the water is only 20 inches deep in here, and I've given up 5 inches of water depth, so forget that. I put this at an angle so I can twist it down to the ground, buy back the depth. Then I'm going to come over here. Here's my clear check valve, okay? One-way valve. Here's my 245s. Now notice I laid them on their side. I don't want to give up my depth, okay? If I could stand it up, I could rotate it up here. Oh, it worked just fine, except that then if that 45 was up here, say 6 inches, and I've only got 20 inches of water, that's not much grab. So Dr. Timmons taught me depth is everything. So I lay it kind of on its side at a sweet angle. Then I go straight. Here's your T-fitting. This is where the air is coming in. See the little green hose? That's coming in from an air compressor that's set over here on the back shelf. If you see it there, that's the top of the little air compressor. And it's running on it. We just ran an extension cord out to it. Now, we go to there, then it's going to be the T. The water is going to burp up. We're going to go through our separator. Now, notice this. The air and the water go up here. Notice I don't want to have a piece of pipe because I'm traveling. I don't want to have a straight piece of pipe going 6 feet up in the air and then falling down. So we came up with this clever little thing of putting a 45 and then another 45. And then Natalie came up with this little silencer. This piece of 2-inch pipe, I can lift over and just take it off. Inside of that 2-inch pipe, you would see on this 1.5 inches, I reduced down to a 3/4 pipe with little slots in it, and this just sets over the top, and it makes a muffler, okay? So that there, your air is going to come out the top there like a little chimney. Where's the water going to come out? It's going to come out here. Now notice, as soon as they come out, I like to drop into 245 and get that water out of there. I do not want the water backing up in here because I want this air and water to shoot free, okay? Fall down, come out here and exit. Now notice as I come out, you see I put a 90 on the end? But this water's coming out pretty lazy, okay? But watch this. If I didn't have the 90, I'd have a little air pressure coming here and it'd be spitting out across and spitting out and spitting. And I'd be hearing, we learned to put the 90 on there, tilt it up, such that the water will come down here, flow down, come out. The water comes out unrestricted. The air is in a trap, and thus the air is encouraged to go up this way. Folks, when we put this little silencer up here and we put that little 90, I can talk at a whisper next to this. A baby could sleep next to this. Or more importantly, this could be outside your bedroom window and not disturb you. Big difference.
Which we all like to have the aquaponics next to our bedroom, right?
There you go.
Yep.
Now let's take a look. Let's just talk about the aquaport itself. Now this is what Benny Ron did to me years ago. He wrote a check and said, go build me a system that I can take on an airplane and demonstrate the principles that we want to share about aquaponics. So we went to Home Depot, we bought the Stanley toolbox, we bought 2 little trays, we got some 4.5-gallon buckets, turned them upside down, and I'll point out to you, this is the 8th generation of this. Now we found out we laid 2 little plastic bars across here. We set the plastic tray on it. That's full of water all the time. Now this water got pumped up to here, comes out to here. This is a cinder bed. We call everything a cinder bed because here in Hawaii we use the black volcanic or red volcanic cinder. It's real lightweight, half of it will float for a day before it will settle down in the water. It's got so many holes, which is a great place for bacteria to live. Now, you could use bark, you could use gravel, you could use clay balls, anything you want to. But what we pioneered with the Aquaport is the double tray system. The tray on the top has maybe 300 or 400 holes drilled in the base of it. The tray on the bottom only has one hole. It comes down, comes over, and comes up, and this clear pipe comes over here and drops into a pipe siphon. We'll be covering that in another webinar. But this is a clear pipe siphon, and you'll see that when the water in this tray comes to here, it will set up a siphon. It will drain down until the air break. That's this pipe here. It's a clear pipe coming over. That pipe extends all the way into the bottom tray. So this will drain all the way down, air break, come over here and release the vacuum. Now the water went into this tray. Remember I said it was full of water all the time? We call these float beds. But mine actually don't float. On the Aquaport, we're showing doing aeroponics. And that's where you put a solid cover. It could be wire and plastic. In this case, I use plywood. You drill holes and you set net pots. And those plants are sitting in water all the time. But watch, this thing flushes, it comes into here, it fills up, it overflows, and then it trickles down about an inch. So it pumps the water in and out each time. That water falls back and aerates when it falls back to the fish. So this is your fish tank. This is your air pump, up to your biofilter, via cinder bed or whatever. You do a double tray or a false bottom. You put a siphon on. We use pipe siphon. It goes to your float bed or your aeroponic bed and flows back to your fish tank. Folks, all this runs on 24 watts of air, 25 liters per minute on 24 watts of electricity that can be run on the smallest solar panel made, okay? And it can expand out that if you have 50 gallons of water in a fish tank, you can have 50 square feet of gardening. So what the practicality is, this is only 5 square feet here. You could have 10 of these trays. Folks, a little 50-gallon aquarium gives you a 50 square foot garden.
Well, of course, if you have enough fish in this 50 gallon. And I want to mention another point. Mm-hmm. You explained the whole thing, and it's beautiful, but somehow you didn't mention air stones. How come?
Because of Dr. Ricosi. Dr. Ricosi, I attended his course, and he has a 1 week course that he teaches. He also goes around and does little 1 and 3 day demonstration. And the man had an expression: one country, one God, one pump. I believed him. But then when you visit his facility, if you go there, he has 2 pumps. He has a water pump to circulate the water around the system, and then he has aeration pumps. I went, wow, that's 2 pumps. And he says, well, 1 of each kind. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know about that.
Let's go back and change it to 1 pump.
1 pump. So watch this, folks. When this water comes over, water seeks its own level. So it's going to fill this pipe up the same level as this tank. When you turn on this air, it's going to come up here.
Wait, take the arrow. Because you got the arrow.
I'll grab my arrow. Okay, I got to push it on. The water comes here. When this air pumps down and it pushes over, this is air and water coming up here. It is splashing up here. It's air and water. The water splashing up cannot make it around the 245s. It falls back down. It splashes again. It comes out here. You'll see a lot of bubbles just emulsified into the water. They break. It comes out here, almost pure water coming out here at 9 parts per million in 1
So there's a saturation going on.
There's saturation.
Yep.
So what we have done is we have taken nitrogen and blasted nitrogen in this water, reduced it down to less than 1 part per million. I've turned it on, and in one pass, go to 7 parts per million.
Oxygen.
Oxygen.
That means the nitrogen was to remove all the oxygen to remove the oxygen, and then to see how fast it's going to recover.
Right. Now,
that's a great idea.
Now, this is going to fill up with water, right? Well, what's it full? If it's not water, it's full of air. So when I fill this up with water, I'm going to push all that air out. That's my garden exhaling. That's the out. Now, when it fills up to this level here, it's going to trip the siphon. Whether you use my pipe siphon or a bell siphon, whatever siphon device, you're going to trip it and you're going to drain the water out. That's going to suck ambient atmosphere air into what?
That's the inhaling.
Whetstone. That's inhaling.
So you breathe in and out, and
In
no
and out.
wonder we call
That's
it
right.
aquazen. Like you have to do
Aquazen.
your breathing right.
That's right. And the breathing's got to be smooth and measured. So we take 10 to 12 minutes to fill up big siphon beds, and we take 2 to 3 minutes to drain them out. So it's called slow fill, fast drain. And that little expression, that's Murray Hallam down in Australia. He did his clay ball beds, and he found out if you filled them up in 10 to 12 minutes, and then you flushed them, and he used his bell siphon, and he flushed it down, that he called it the slow fill, fast drain. Well, why fast drain? Because, folks, use the analogy of a toilet. When you flush a toilet, do you want it to flush slowly, or do you want it to go very rapidly?
I want it rapidly.
You got it. Because a scientist will tell you that if water is moving at 5 feet per second or more, it'll carry solids. But if you slow water down below 5 feet per second, the solids will percolate or particulate out. Is that the word, particulate out? It will settle out.
We don't need
And
that. Not in my toilet.
it ain't going to flush, okay?
No.
Right? So we want to fill it up slow, right? And when you flip the handle, be it a bell siphon or my pipe siphon, you want it to flush out very rapidly. Now, the water comes very rapidly into this container, the float beds or deep trough beds, as Murray Hallam calls them, deep trough beds. And it's really important. Why do we want this thing? Mine are at least 8 inches deep. Why? The deeper the water, the more volume I have, and the slower that water is going to change to the heat of the temperature, okay, of the day, okay? So when we fill it up, it's going to flush, it's going to fall again to the fish, and again we aerate, okay?
Let's
Well,
go to
ready?
the next slide.
Okay, we only have 290 slides, and we're already
Exactly.
on the third one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's move to the next one. Let's move to the next slide. And in the next slide, we have this really beautiful story. Really beautiful story. I mean, I'm inviting everybody to see the spring down there where Glenn is pointing right now, where he placed his little water pump. And he mentioned it also in the video that we showed you before on the YouTube, and he will give you a better explanation. Now, we are under a bridge, and that's a spring, a natural spring that's coming out of the mountains, the beautiful setting of the Waimanalo and the Koolau Range and the Pali coming down with a lot of water. This is the windward side of Oahu in Hawaii. And what to do with the water and how to use the water in the most efficient way while using as less energy as possible. Go ahead.
So, Dr. Benny Ron took me down to the Philippines about 2 years ago and introduced us to the Consuelo Foundation, and Natalie and I have been going back every 3 to 6 months since then. And one of the problems you find all over the world there and in Samoa is how to get the water. Many times the water is not up on the surface. It's down in a well, or very traditionally, it's down in a ravine. And you have a small stream or spring like this coming past you. The water is only 6 to 8 inches deep, and you need to get it 20 feet up, okay? I'm going to grab the little arrow. And up is way up above us. Up here is the bridge, 20 feet above me. What I'm pointing to there with my finger is I'm pointing to there's a little 34-watt submersible pump in here that runs on electricity, be solar powered. I pump the water up in this pipe, and that little pump can only pump about 5 feet. That's all it can do, folks. No way is any 34-watt pump going to get any water up 20 feet. It's just not going to happen, okay? You have to get into about a 5-amp motor to be able to get 20 feet high.
And you don't want to do that?
And
it's
that's
too expensive. Yeah.
Nobody can afford the solar, the maintenance on it. Forget it. It's not going to happen. So I use a little 34-watt pump in this case, and I pump the water. The little mechanical pump is pumping. It's right down here where the arrow is. It's pumping the water up the 1-inch pipe, to about this level here, okay? Now watch this. See the green hose? That's air. In this case, I use 60 watt of air. I put it here, and now
60 watt of air pump.
Now air pump, okay, 60 watt.
This is all sitting on the bridge.
On the bridge.
20 feet above you.
20 feet above me, and it uses 60 watt of power, and it gives me 60 liters per minute, okay? I release that air by this little contraption here into the 1-inch pipe. So if I've got the water up here about where that bungee cord is, well, the air is going to be underneath it. It will lift it up. For experimental purposes, I have a second hose here. I could put another 60 watt. I could do this every 5 feet, 10 feet, whatever I want to do. More air is more pumping, okay? But most traditionally, we will use one pump. Remember, one country, one God, one pump. Now, in this case, you're using two pumps. You have the pump here to give me the first 5 feet ahead. So remember the Dr. Timmons fellow? Well, the next phase of this is, and we're going to show this to you, is if I were to dig a ditch over here on the side, dig a hole 4 feet deep, let this stream water fill up that well 4 feet deep. And what Dr. Timmons taught me is to release the air underneath there. Wow, no more electric pump.
That's true.
Okay?
Only the air pump.
Only the air pump, and we get back to Ricosi's thing, one pump. And then we pump it all the way up. So you can make a test rig out of this, and when you'll see some in our backyard in the pictures, we will mount it up. We use this one because I had a bridge over 20 feet over a stream, and it makes a great test site for us. You want to go to the next slide?
Yeah. Let's go to the next slide, because we need to go up the bridge to see what's happening up the bridge. So here's your picture that I took down there. It's a beautiful picture, actually. You know, I like the leaf.
Hey, you can't see the shiny top of my head?
Exactly. You're not bald over here. You have a nice leaf over your head, and we go just above the next one. And this is somebody even wrote me on my Facebook today that you look like one of those,
lightsaber?
Lightsaber. He said he looked at these, and he looked at that, and he said, this is a saber, a lightsaber, laser saber. So explain about the laser. And there was a question also. Somebody asked us before how you made this butterfly, and you can explain about that. But why don't you give them the whole story? Here's right here. I put the arrow for you.
All right.
Take over.
Okay. So they call it a lightsaber, and actually it's a life, L-I-F-E, saver. In that, if you can get water from a well 20 feet down, and you can pump up 450 gallons of air of water with just 34 watts of power post, it is a lifesaver in many parts of the world, okay? Now, this is the 1-inch pipe. It's just like those ones I showed you in the yard where I use air and water's coming up here. But remember how we had it going up 3-4 feet and falling back down? Quite frankly, some of it fell right back down the 1-inch pipe. So we had a team here from Rhoda, 5 gentlemen from the age of 24 to 55, right kind of range.
Great guys.
And great guys. And I showed them a little thing I've been playing with, and they built this one. You cut a slit in the 1-inch pipe. They took the lid of a 5-gallon bucket. They took a pair of utility scissors. They cut 2 little pieces of plastic. They wedged it down in there. They took the little Bic lighter. One of them was a smoker. And he heated up the plastic and just put a little bit of a curve into it, right? The other redeeming feature of having a smoker is they carry Bic lighters, right?
It's always can be helpful.
It comes together. So notice that when this thing burps up, the water will go this way and it goes that way. By the way, it goes about 5 feet left and right, okay? We have videos of it.
Yeah.
Now, a little messy, I'm going to get wet. So what I do is put this clear jacket over the top there so it collects the water. Notice we've gone up to a 3-inch collector. Little 1-inch pipe here goes, notice, by the way, this 1-inch pipe goes all the way through the 3-inch, all the way to here, nonstop.
This is a T, basically.
This is a 3-inch T. It's called a 3-3-2.
Okay.
The part coming out on the side is 2.
Because we need to go to the coin.
That's right. This just dumps into a standpipe, which is a 4-inch piece of pipe, which just 2 feet down is connected to a 2-inch pipe that runs across my yard about 100, 150 feet away and dumps the water into the koi fish. Because water seeks its own level. That's how we move it horizontally. So this little collector just sits on the top. Now, if I didn't want it to be so tall there, I could do a couple of little 45s, you know, and have it be shorter, squattier, okay? But quite frankly, we come out here, we pull this off. Every now and then, I will stick a piece of 1-inch pipe, a coupling here, and I just shoot it up another 12 feet higher, mostly to show off, you know.
But that's
the
okay.
kids kind of like
it. The kids
you
like
know?
it, you know, when they come. And I just want to mention also those 5 wonderful people from Rota were actually interns of the aquaculture training online learning ATOL program that we have here at the university. And Glenn Martinez is one of our faculty, the teacher of the aquaponics. And we had a special grant. They came here for 3 months.
Lived at the farm.
Lived on the farm. Took classes with us at the Human Nutrition, Food and Animal Sciences. Some classes of what we call it Animal Production 201. And they were going around building systems, were being tackled with troubleshooting all over. And now they are back in Rota, which is part of the Mariana Islands, and they are building their aquaponic systems. So they graduated from the, you know, with I would say, you know, full colors flags. You know,
OJT,
yeah,
on-the-job training.
yeah, and got certificate from the department head Dr. Doug Vincent, and from Dr. Maria Gallo, the dean of the College of Tropical Ag and Human Nutrition. So, you know, this kind of collaboration between the islands and the University of Hawaii CTAR is very meaningful and important for us. Let's go to the next one. Where the water go eventually? Oh, here we can see another picture of this water sprinkling all over the place, and here is where it comes out.
Now this is about 150 feet away or so from where the water came in. So I'm going to grab my little green arrow. See this 2-inch pipe here? Going behind me, 100, 150 feet away is where the bridge is. We dump it into a pipe that's 4 inches, you know, diameter. It comes down to the 2-inch pipe, comes all the way over here, and it just free flows out. As long as this level here is 12 inches below the level at the other end, it's coming out this end, okay?
But daily you get a lot of water.
I get 450 gallons a day, an hour, every hour. So
how much every hour?
450 gallons an hour.
That's beautiful.
Okay, so in round numbers, call it 400. What's 400 times 20 hours a day would be what? What's 4 times 20? 8,000 gallons a day? So when people ask me, can I pump up a meaningful, practical level? Folks, when you could fill up a town's reservoir system with 8,000 to 10,000 gallons a day with one solar panel with less than 100 watts of electricity, a 100-watt light bulb, that is a lifesaver for a community.
Well, you know, people have to know that you know, with all due respect to the beautification and wonderful koi that you have here, which is really nice to have that, and you can sit down and do your aquazen and meditate and all that. But actually, it's very practical because you are on a slope of a hill, and the water eventually goes all the way down to your taro field.
Right.
So, you know, if you divert the water right, you can actually get a lot. Because on the way down, you grow your ducks.
Right. And
then eventually it goes to the taro. So, guys, eventually you can feed a lot of people with this flow. Yeah. So let's go to the next slide. And here we have a really, really nice story. This is not really aquaponics, but guys, most of you, at least as far as I know, live in houses. And everybody have a problem in many places, especially if you're off the grid, how to take the water to the second floor. I mean, not everybody will have to take shower and drink on the first floor. So Glenn came up with a solution, and he will give you a little story about this unique system. I call it up over the roof.
Yeah. So let's say if this was an aquaponics system, This is your fish tank right here where I'm moving the green arrow up and down, okay? This happens to be about a 150-gallon little fish tank, okay? The 150-gallon fish tank is plumbed with a 2-inch pipe. It comes here, and right behind my legs there is a one-way check valve. It lets water come into this 55-gallon drum. If you're doing aquaponics, this would be your fish tank. This would be your pressure tank. All we do is dig the water this down, say halfway in the ground. We want the water by gravity to come through here, go past the check valve, and come into here, okay? Now, over here on the shelf is a 60-watt air pump. See the little green hose? Well, we normally show this green hose right here coming in. This pipe only goes about 1 inch into the 55-gallon drum. If I put 60 liters per minute with that little 60-watt pump, by the way, it's only 2 psi, 2 pounds per square inch. If I put it in this green hose here, I pressurize this 55-gallon drum. We typically like to show this piece of pipe here is a clear pipe coming over and down. I open the valve, and this clear pipe, it goes to within 1 inch of the bottom of the 55-gallon drum. So watch this. This becomes a pressure displacement pump. If you have any closed chamber and you put the air into the top of it and it pushes down on the surface of the water, that water is going to be pushed up this pipe. And there I push that thing again. Oh, man.
Okay. No worry.
Hey, maybe we'll get our arrow.
Oh, hey, we got an arrow.
Every time I make a mistake, it comes out good, huh? So we come up. Now, if I push pressurized air in this 55-gallon drum, it pumps up here, over here. Folks, do you see how high that is over my head? Now, keep in mind, right where the dirty line, that would be your grade level. That's the bottom of the fish tank. But do you see from the height of the water, I'm going 6 feet high here to this pipe. We turn this on, and with this little 60-watt air pump pumping into a 55-gallon drum, I pump the water up, over, and back to the fish tank at the rate of 600 gallons per hour.
So we're basically using the pressurized air in this drum to move things around.
Move it around. Now, when the drum runs out of water, right, because you're going to empty it, you open up the air valve, you let it vent, and it lets the water that's in the fish tank go through the check valve and fill this back up. Now, we automate that by here at the end, we put a simple little float switch, and it opens an electrical valve bleeding out the air. And Natalie and I have done this with a little about $25 worth of electrical little switches and a relay and a solenoid. If I can stand there when this drum is empty, I open it, and then it naturally fills back up because water seeks its own level. But part we want to talk, that's the aquaponic side.
Let's do the big thing.
Okay. And that's 6 foot high, and nobody's going to build an aquaponic hyacinth. But here's the truth. When Benny Ron took me down to the Filipinos, we started off in the city of Manila, flat land, pretty neat stuff, right? But the first project we did was Taloy Foundation.
And they had a big tank up there.
They had the fish tank at two-thirds of the way up a hill that was on about a 20-degree slant. And they wanted to build aquaponics, and the tanks were 6 foot deep.
Yeah. I
not only had to get the water out of the fish tank, I had to get it uphill.
Yep.
So here's what we did, folks. We took and we sent one pump. We had to pump the water all the way up and put it into a 20-foot tower. Now, they have a big stainless steel tower, 8-foot diameter, 10-foot tall. And then we used gravity, and we went everywhere. And by the way, you can go to Olomana Gardens' website is olomanagardens.com, and you can see that film. It was shot by other people, not us, but it's a little 20-minute film on the story, and you can see the system running in real life, where they run a 1-acre aquaponic system on 1 horsepower of electricity. That's it.
And feeding close to 1,000 kids.
Yeah.
That's what
840 kids.
We care about the kids.
The kids.
And they get it.
Right.
And they get it.
So this is our little office here, and this is the deck above the office, okay? It became our test site. Watch this. We're going to take this pressurized water in the 55-gallon drum. We're going to feed it into the 1-inch pipe. This is the clear pipe here. Now, when we're in the stream, We used a mechanical pump to get up that first 5 feet so we could inject the air. But watch this. Here I use compressurized, air pressure to push the water up to about this mark, about up here, okay? Then guess what? I have a secret weapon, a second air pump.
Oh, now we divert.
Now I take 60 watt, I come in and I put it right here, folks. You see the little check valve there? It lets the air go in, but doesn't let that water I got standing there come back. I inject the 160 watt pump there. I take and I pump it all the way up to here. And if you go up on YouTube and that, you'll see the videos of this pumping up. And it pumps up into here, and notice that's 3 inches big. The water all gets collected there, right? Now, here's the magic part. The water falls down into the 2-inch pipe. The 2-inch pipe comes all the way down to here, exit stage right, and the 2-inch pipe goes all the way to ground. Wait a minute. How did the water get up there? Remember the 1-inch pipe? The 1-inch pipe goes through the 2-inch pipe, through the 3-inch pipe. It burps, got a little set of butterfly wings. It burps, fills up the 3-inch, which fills up the 2-inch, which comes all the way to the ground. And you see this hose here?
Let's see the pressure.
Ah,
Let's go to the next slide. Maybe we have a slide that can show the pressure. Oh, I lost my arrow.
There you go. Ah, you lost your arrow, but I got
But
the
hey,
one. Ah, you
look
go.
at the
Look at
pressure that you got
Yeah.
over there. Wow.
Because watch this, guys. If you were to pump the water 30 feet high, if the standing water has a half a PSI for every foot, you go 30 feet of height in a water tank gives me 15 pounds of pressure at the bottom. Demonstrated by, this is the garden hose with a little
use the
shut-off
arrow.
valve.
Use the arrow.
Oh, you lost
Grab
my
the arrow.
Oh, boy. Grab my arrow. I'm going to go, see the water pumping up here? That is an awesome amount of water being pumped out, okay? We can take this garden hose, hook it to a PVC system, and run water all over the farm. So what are you really looking at here? Well, you're using only air to pump, no mechanical pump.
But this is 2 pumps.
2 pumps. 1 to get the first 6 feet, okay? But watch this. What we could do is come off of here, and we're going to show you this later in the webinar. Instead of using this pressurized tank, Dr. Timmons taught me to come off and to make a hole in the ground 4 feet deep, and then take this air and release it down there, and we use just 1 pump.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah, but we wanted to use this drum.
Why we did this? Folks, there's many places I can't dig a hole 4 feet
Exactly.
deep. I'm on a school campus, got a concrete patio. I'm in a townhouse. Oh, how about the rooftop of a building?
You know it's going to
Okay, so we have to have different ways to do it,
It is.
right?
It's very hard to convince people to start digging in their building. And
Right. Sometimes you're a renter. You can't be digging a hole in the yard. You're on a school campus. Everybody's just scared. Are you going to hit the intercom system, the fire alarm system?
And they
a
don't know
water pipe?
exactly where it is.
Yeah,
Not all of
yeah.
them have the map.
That's right. So digging the 4-foot hole is not always the answer. But what I learned from Dr. Timmons, well, if I can't dig the 4-foot hole down, then pump the water up either mechanically or using a pressurized chamber. Get that 4 or 5 feet, inject that air,
Right.
and then you might say, the sky's the limit?
Well, it seems not.
Yeah.
We have to remember that the sky is the limit, but we have to walk on earth humbly. So let's go back to earth. And over here, I think this is actually the dessert part.
Mm-hmm.
We coming into the dessert because over here, with Glenn permission, we can show you actually the drawing from the book that Glenn, Liz, and Natalie put together for the patenting. And he can show you here exactly how it is being done on, I would say, a technical engineering kind of drawing.
Okay. So, remember Dr. Timmons? Well, he influenced me. If you can't dig a hole in the ground, get a couple of concrete blocks and raise your water tank. So I raised it 8 inches here. That got my water tank up off the ground, right? I come down, come over, I go to a check valve, correct? Come out of the check valve, I go up to 245s, right? Here's my air compressor. Air comes down, right? It's going to hit here. Now, what's it going to hit? Well, this is your water level in your fish tank. That water level is going to come down and fill up each one of these pipes with that water. So the water is going to be exactly the same level as the fish tank until you turn on the air. When you turn on the air pressure is going to come down. The air doesn't actually know whether to go left or right, but when it tries to go to the right, bingo, door is going to slam shut. Goes over to the left and burps up. When it burps up, now it won't be just a continuous trickle. Remember some of the other ones where we drilled the little hole? It's just a continuous flow of air. No, not on this. This, if you, let's say you had 24 inches here. Can you picture that if you push the air down 1 inch, when it does come over here and it burps, that it's going to drag the whole bubble of air with it? That gives me a big slug of it. And boy, when you first flip it on, you'll get water from here, the height of the depth of the fish tank, 24 inches. The first slug is a solid 24 inches of water coming up. After that, the valve swings open when it burps, fills full of water, then she closes. So folks, the higher this fish tank is here, the more pressure, atmospheric pressure there is coming here.
The water weight also.
The water weight, right? You got the weight of all of this water force feeding this into here. So that way, if I didn't have this, I would have a mechanical pump, right, to force it in. But better to let go and let God, as they say. Let the water come over here, and they come over here, it comes there, and it burps, it pumps up. See the separator, folks? Pay attention. 1 inch pipe here, right? Then in this drawing, I go to a 2 inch pipe. There's a reducer here, 2 to 1. But I've drilled it out, and I let the 1 inch pipe go all the way through. Let it burp up, air goes out, it's vented, right? Same as the air going out the back of the exhaust of your car. You got to let it go. It falls down, comes over, and then it goes out, right?
Yep. We showed that in the beginning, but now you can see it in the drawing.
Right. The drain valve here is because if you do get rocks, if you do get solids or something, if the pump can't pump it up, hey, once a month, open this for about 10 seconds. Oh, you'd be quite amazed at the force of this water coming out, right? It clears out the piping. You're good to go again. Also, notice in the drawings, on the one-way valve here, we buy valves that have a union right here and right here. If I ever needed to, I can come over, remove this, clean it out, put it. You got one moving part. The other thing is these little valves here, if you're being clear, they're $50. But not clear, they're only $25 or $30. They're universally available all over the world. Anywhere anybody has to put sewage uphill to get it off their property, they don't want it coming back.
Right.
You know, go up and stay.
And I'm glad you made it clear to us.
There you go.
The other thing is that you notice again. Oh, where's my arrow? You notice again that the 245 2-inch coupling that you always use. You see, guys, basically this is the big pattern here that I suggest all of you listen up, check it out, and do it.
Yeah.
And the other thing, somebody kind of asked a question about what happened if we have now no electricity. And what will happen if the water will go back to the air compressor? And I don't think so, because if you notice, even in this picture, the air compressor is always above the water of the fish tank.
Yeah, every aquarium guy knows that.
There's no way that water going to start climbing up if they don't need to, because it's not going to happen, at least not in our world with the gravity that we have up until now. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Let's see what we have over here. Now, over here, we have it seems a little bit complex for you guys, but you again see the same principles. But over here, what we have, if you notice, a tea maker. So, well, Natalie was asking what happened if we have some water coming into the air pump. Oh, well.
It's called buy a new air pump.
Exactly. Don't make it happen. So make sure that
always have the air compressor above the water.
Exactly. That's a principle, like Glenn said, every hobbyist that grows fish in aquarium, he knows to put their air pump above the water level, the surface. Now, Glenn Teamaker is, again, right here in the technical drawing, and I'll give the arrow to Glenn.
This is a special reward for you guys that have hung in this long on this webinar. Because this Teamaker, if I had to choose just one of my inventions to go with, to travel the world with, if I had to put all my eggs into one basket, this would be the basket. What this does, it's definitely aquaponics, because I would not think about doing aquaponics without having worms or composting, okay? Because that's the outside micronutrients we need. If you're going to do aquaponics, sure, you're turning all that ammonia into nitrogen, nitrite, nitrate, and you're doing that, and it cleans up the water and gets rid of the ammonia so you don't poison your fish. And it's great for growing leafy greens, lettuce, the basils, and that. But they tend to be low octane, nothing you could call a superfood, okay?
We need the real food eventually.
We need the real
because you know what? I tell you, the bottom line is you will not feed the world with lettuce. This is one thing that people that have aquaponics have to remember. Although it grows really fast, within like 8 weeks or less, you can get this leafy stuff. But you need to grow vegetables,
right?
And that's why, for example, the Hawaiian chose taro, because you got a lot of carbohydrates and protein.
Bingo. So what we do here, folks, where I go and I travel, if I've got 80 people in the room, maybe 5% of them are doing aquaponics already. Maybe 20% of them want to do aquaponics. The rest of them there for a good lunch, curiosity, or they were ordered by their employer to be there, Now, when I do the worm tea, you talk about a room of converts because you're talking to them all, okay? So I'm going to go through this and explain it, and you'll see the relevance, how it relates to our lives. What I do is I take a 55-gallon drum and I set it on some 8-inch blocks, right? Okay? So the drum only has a 2-inch sink drain in the bottom. This is after I've made my tea, I need to get it out of here, okay? Right? Let's say you've made your tea by whatever contraption or device, you've got 50 gallons of worm tea. So if the water goes out the bottom, comes over, it goes through my one-way check valve. And if I've got my air compressor sitting up here with my little garden hose Y fitting, right? And I run a garden hose down here, do you see that check valve is going to close? By the way, in this drawing, what's missing? Ooh, where are the 45?
45. How
right?
you forgot? We have to talk to Liz about it.
You got to talk about it. This is one of the early drawings. You don't want to do this, folks. The air is going to sneak by and it's going to burp back
That's
up
what we
here.
call the pre-45ers.
That's
period,
right. Yeah, this is the evolution. We learned to put the 45s and go up. But watch this. If the air comes down here, it will close the valve, but whatever's in here, and what height is this water? Well, it's the height of the water in here. Because when that air compressor is not running, that water in here will flood through the drain, come to here, and it's going to fill this pipe where to where? Right to this level. Water takes its own level, right?
Yep.
I come along, I turn on my air, the air closes the valve, and it pushes 36 inches of water up, separates it, and out it goes, okay? Then it burps. The air gets out, valve opens up, wow, water comes in, air is continuous, closes valve, and she burps. It's a one-valve water pumping machine, okay?
So you basically feed all your system. That's basically like, we used to call it, in agriculture.
Yes.
You needed a particular tank or a drum that will have a pump that will fertilize all your vegetables.
Bingo.
So basically, this is a fertilizer pump.
You betcha. It's a fertilizer machine.
Yep.
Now, we jump to the conclusion, after you've made your tea, how to get it out of there without going and buying a submersible pump and dropping it in and getting it clogged and all that. Forget that. Because remember, one pump, one air pump. Now, let's go to the magic part. The magic part is let's open the Y and send the air down here. This is a very special one. They were doing an individual patent for this. Watch this. The air comes in here. It doesn't know whether to go up or go down, but air simply wants to go up, right? So the air goes up here, and as that air goes up, it causes a vacuum, right? Because it's what Benny calls the lower displacement here.
Yeah.
Okay.
It sucks the water in.
Oh, how to make that go away?
Hold on a second.
I got settings on.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's see what's going on with these settings.
Okay, good.
Real
Man.
bit.
See, you're good.
Close this bugger.
Okay, good.
Oh, we got the arrow now.
Back there. Okay. Yeah.
Well, we're learning.
There you go. So air is going to come here. When the air goes up, it's going to suck water in this hole and the bottom hole here. Okay. Now, when the water comes in here, why? Because the air is rising. And as it lifts it up, it makes the water lighter. It's lifting it up. It pushes up here. Now I've got air and water coming in.
Aerobic,
right. So what do I got here? This is a 2 for $5 painter sack at Home Depot, Ace Hardware Store, any paint store. They all sell a 5-gallon net sack of not quite nylon linen quality, but it's a stocking. It's a stocking, yeah. And it's hard to get stockings off, in that.
Yeah, you don't want to get there. You don't want to go there. You don't want to.
Okay, so we're going to buy a painter sack, right, to strain the painters, right? What do I throw in here? 2 handfuls of worm casting or compost mix, whatever outside material I want to add to my garden. Now, if I put it in here, I got air and water coming up, bubbling through this. This goes into total emulsion in here. If you were to reach over the side with your hand and grab it, you couldn't grab a handful. It would all be emulsified into here. Now, when the water gets up to here, all right, it comes up. It can only pump so high,
right,
and it fills up. Now, what happens? Well, we need the magic, right? Watch this. If the air's coming in here and is pumping up here, remember the part where we say for every foot high is half a pound of PSI? When I pump this up 18 to 24 inches high, I'm going to go from 1 to 2 PSI of pressure. Plus, this water weighs about 8 pounds a gallon. It's a 5-gallon bucket. When it gets to about the 4-gallon mark, I got 30 to 32 pounds of weight sitting up here, right? Now the air is coming in here and is burping and is burping and is burping, but as it gets higher, the burps start getting slower. It's getting harder and harder to get it up, okay? Right? And now, so what's going to happen is when the burp gets slower, the air says, you know what? Give me a back door. Comes over here, goes over there, and it goes out.
Into the chamber.
It goes out there, or it goes out there. Well, it's going to go out the easiest way. The air bubble is going up. It finds this exit point. It comes out here. This is aim 45-degree angle down. It looks 90-degree here. In real life, it's about a 45-degree angle. You reach in and you twist this and find the sweet angle that you want the air to come out here before this overflows the top and makes a big mess.
So this is basically your adjustment angle.
Yep, it's the only moving part inside the barrel. You turn it one time, find that sweet spot.
And this is a 1 inch, right?
This is one. No, watch this. The air comes in, and we found a cute design is to bring it in to a 1 inch T, reduce the 1 inch to 3/4, reduce the 3/4 to ½ inch, and we squeeze it into a ½ inch riser. Wow, this is like a bottle rocket going up, right?
Because actually, you can also, another way to adjust it is to play with the diameter.
The diameter, that's right. And then, by the way, notice here where this drawing shows a 90? Well, Natalie was sitting over watching us, and we noticed that these 55-gallon drums, some are 34 inches tall, some are 36 or 37. And Natalie came up with her own little invention, and that is this pipe now goes straight. It comes down and stops about 2 inches from the bottom. And she took a 2-inch piece of pipe. She put castle cuts on the bottom. She glued a 2-inch cap on the top. She drilled a hole in the 2-inch cap, and it slides over this pipe. So now her little 2-inch pipe is always sitting on the bottom. So this sucks off the bottom, right? sends all the trash, all the junk on the bottom, any worm castings that got away from you or slipped through my net, sucks it up off the bottom, right? And that guarantees that this air coming in here never goes out the bottom. It will always go out the side one, right? Now,
And
when it
it's
comes
also
up,
guarantee that you don't have settlement.
bingo.
So things are all the time
Right.
moving around.
Right, right. So now watch what happens. When this collapses, when the air comes here and it does what we call the back flush, once that air starts coming out here, the air coming here comes here, goes there. Why? Because that 30 pounds of water up here, it says, wow, here I come. And like a freight train, it starts coming down that half-inch pipe. It hits, and it goes this way, and the air goes that way. Now, in practicality, a lot of times, this piece of pipe right here is directly opposite the air. And that gives a continuous flow. The air will come in, go straight across, and go down. We just show it here on the drawing to show you the separate elements that are in play. We have put this together in many, many different configurations, okay? But basically, you want the air to pump down, come over, pump air and water up, go in total solution with your worm casting tea, whatever you're going to do, right? Some people run it for 5 hours, some people for 48 hours. Some people add some molasses because you're breeding bacteria here.
Right.
You're making a liquid yogurt, right?
You need the sugar.
So we add the sugar. How do I tell when it's done? Well, I went and bought a brick tester. That's B-R-I-C, but it's spelled like, or B-I-K. I found B-R-I-C. It's made for all the guys who grow grapes to make wine.
No, if they have enough sugar in their...
Bingo. I go to an ethanol plant in the Midwest. Boy, every truckload of corn is tested with the equivalent of a brick tester. They test for the sugar content of the corn. That determines the price the farmer gets. In my case, I found out that in the morning, if I have 55 gallons of clear water, and let me comment, it's dechlorinated water.
Of course, you don't want to kill the bacteria.
Oh, I'm trying to grow bacteria, folks. So chlorinated water is out. So I have a $150 dechlorinating filter. If you don't have a dechlorinated filter, Natalie has found out you simply fill the drum full of water, she turns it on and runs it for a day. That will dechlorinate your
It
water.
will bubble all the chlorine
Chlorine out.
outside. Because
Then the
chlor is a
next
gas, actually.
Bingo. So the next day, we
Yeah.
make our worm tea in dechlorinated water, right? How long do I run it? We walk out with our little brick tester, and we have found out by trial and error that if I start off with 50 gallons of water and 2 cups of molasses, it'll read on a brick tester 15 to 16 bricks. Now, I run it for 12 hours. I'm down to 5 bricks.
Okay.
I run it to tomorrow morning. I'm down to 1 brick. And before I lose all my bricks, right?
You move it around.
I dump it. I either add more sugar to keep breeding, or I pump it out.
You basically fertilize.
And how do I pump it out? I walk out in the morning, and I just smell my water. If the molasses is gone, and your nose can tell you, right? If you're real brave, you taste it. Well, you want to go to there, yeah?
Well, make sure that it's before breakfast.
Right, before breakfast. All I do is I switch the Y fitting, guys, and it starts pumping this out to where? To my biofilter. It will grab any solids that are in the water, catch it there. It'll go through my biofilter, then it'll go through the flow bed, then it'll go to the sump tank, and then it'll pump all the way back to the fish. By the time the fish got it, it's totally clear.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
But watch this beautiful thing, guys. Remember the air pump sitting up here above the water?
Yeah.
The air pump is always dry.
Of course.
When I flip this switch, I can leave it. I can come back. In about 45 minutes, it will have pumped this thing all the way down. Oh, it looks really fast in the beginning, guys, because you got 36 inches ahead. Remember Dr. Timmons? And you got, a little head there. If you got 36 inches ahead, oh, this thing pumps really fast. But as you walk away, you come back 20 minutes later, and this water is down to, say, 12 inches, my pump goes slower.
Yeah.
And it gets slower. But guess what? I will pump this drum absolutely dry with no fear of burning up my submersible pump.
Because,
right?
the nice thing about an air pump, it is always dry.
It's always dry.
So there's no way you're going to break it or
Yeah.
anything like that.
That's right. So I come back 3 or 4 hours later, rinse it out with some water, and start making a new batch.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, Glenn, really, thank you for sharing, because I think this is a diamond.
That alone
That's
is
a
worth
diamond.
the webinar, guys.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
because you need
Yeah.
to put those outside micronutrients.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. This is all about, when we talk about agriculture, any kind of
Yeah.
agriculture.
Whether you're aquaponics,
You
or you're
need your
in the ground-
fertilizer, you
Bingo.
need your bacteria. Without the bacteria, we know we cannot move forward.
Mhm.
Well, let's look. I think this almost the last slide that we have related to the drawing. We have a one-way valve water pump over here. This is a later one because I see the 45 degrees. This is just a really simple, looks like simple, but guys, this is to just give you overview of what we were talking about. And notice, to those who had this question, this is the water level
Of the
and
fish tank.
of the fish tank, yeah. Where
Fish tank or whatever you're pumping out.
Yeah, next time we'll draw fish here, just to make sure.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is the air compressor, which
And
is
your
always
fish tank
up.
would be connected right over here.
Yeah.
That would be
so if it
right?
was like the aquaport
Yeah.
or whatever,
Or
you
just
just
sitting in
connect
the
it.
water.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So I'll give you like maybe 1 or 2 minutes just to go over
Okay.
it, just to make sure everybody
great.
know what they talk about. And the nice thing about this drawing that we have here, actually the measurement, like 1 inch to 2 to 1 and all that. So guys, look at it and just try to duplicate that.
Any of you guys that are clever enough to have a screensaver little, on your Macintosh, you could just drag it across here.
Or whatever.
You can
I
print
mean,
this
they're going to
out,
have it
right?
anyway. I mean,
Good. They're gonna
this
save it.
presentation, Vanessa
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
take care of,
yeah.
make sure that everybody going to have it forever.
Right. Now, you see this line saying water level? I want to share with you that a friend of mine brought me out to Ford Island, Al, and when he brought us out to Ford Island, we looked at the pumps, and they were brand new fiberglass pumps, and he didn't want me poking any holes in it. That's Al Everson. And when we went to it, if I couldn't poke a hole in the side of the tank to get the water out, I had to set my whole pump
Outside.
inside the tank.
Okay. That's
Inside
one
the
way.
tank.
Okay.
He didn't want any holes in that brand new fiberglass tank.
So you just set it up inside.
So you ready
like
for
that.
this?
Yeah.
We simply took the air compressor here and we came up with a plan. We just set it on a stand next to the tank above the water level.
Right.
And the whole thing, we pick it up and we set it in the tank.
Right.
Bingo. So it just sits in there. When you want to harvest your fish or that, you want to chase them with a net,
Take it out.
simply take it out,
Yeah.
set it on the ground.
Yeah.
No harm,
It's
no foul.
nothing, yeah.
So we were able to show that we could set the pump inside the water tank and pump it up. Now,
No, you don't set the pump. You set only the PVC.
the PVC.
The pump is staying always above
That's right. The air
above
compressor
Right.
stays out
Yeah.
here.
The pumping system.
My lifting
Yeah.
system, the water lifting system, it gets set in. Everything stays the same. By the way, notice we're drawing this left to right, coming all the way here. Folks, let me share something with you. If this is your water intake, that's a screen to keep a fish from swimming in. We come right here, we make a 90. We make another 90, and then we go up. And this whole thing will sit in the bottom of a 5-gallon bucket. It does not need to be long and straight. We show that for simplicity. We simply go in a circle right here, right? And we go straight up. So you can walk over and just hook this on the side of a fish tank. Now, when we come here, notice it's 48 inches to 96 inches high. Guys, for every 1 foot of water I go down, I can pump 24 inches high in round number. If I've got a 4-foot deep fish tank, I pump 96 inches high. Not at a maximum height. I'm talking at working volumes, like 200 gallons per
You
hour
don't need
or
much
better.
more than that. Why
Yeah.
would you need more than that?
Exactly. And normally, we set our pumps to pump the capacity of the tank.
Right.
If I've got a 1,000-gallon tank, I need 1,000 gallons an hour, okay? So we pump up, we go through the juicer, go away. But we wanted to show this drawing. Now, if you didn't want to set it in the water, if your fish tank was over here, guys, this would just be right where your fish tank would be hooked up. Right where I'm moving the arrow up and down, everything to your left would be the fish tank. That would pick up the fish tank water,
Right.
and out you would go. So it could be inside or out.
Well, Rachel has a question over here, because I think we were talking so much about the 45 degrees
Right there.
Yeah, right there. And suddenly you said something that scared everybody. You mentioned 90 degrees.
90 degrees.
I want you to clear it up because we're not going to go to lunch today until you clear this up because I want Rachel to say right there that she understood and she's cool.
Okay. Keep in mind, when we talked about, I said the detriment to using 290s is when you're pumping high volumes of water, 90s give a resistance, okay?
Right.
But if you go look at any engineering book or a little handy guide, we're talking about pumping 300 to 400 gallons per hour.
Right.
If I use a 2-inch pipe, the 90s will have no influence, okay? I like this because if I were to have, let's say right over here, if I had a shutoff valve and I could open it up, can you see the water would just charge through there and flush out and clean?
So let's stay with the 45. Tell everybody, no, forget about the 90.
That's
so
right.
let's keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
Okay?
Right.
One God, one country, one pump, always 45.
Always 45. I love the 45s, okay? I was just for those people that say, but what if I don't have a fish tank that big? Or what if I have to set this in a 55-gallon drum?
Oh, wow.
You could do it.
Okay.
Either way, by the way, Natalie and I, we spent about 6 weeks to get the first one of these to work. Now, it seems like no matter how we build them, we get some water.
Yep.
Okay? If you want to get the most water for the least amount of energy, do the 45.
Yep.
Okay?
Okay, so Rachel, go with the 45, please.
Yep,
Okay,
yep.
forget about the 90.
Yep. And then, so this you pump it out. But I just wanted to get the point across. You can set the whole pump in
Right,
the water
right.
without any other physical connection.
So Rachel, now we can go for lunch. Okay, let's see what do we have in the end. Thank you. And I just want to go over, this is important, the take-home message.
Oh, yeah.
Take-home message is big,
Yeah.
right? Is the advantages of the barber pump over existing art. That's the way that I like to call it, and because everybody is doing art. So, we give them the credit.
Does that
benefit
make me
of
an
the-
artist?
You are.
Wow.
You are. I mean, all of us artists. I think that basically we at the university, we should be called scientists and artists at the same time. I'm just go look at the literature for a cool guy named Leonardo da Vinci. Art and science go hand to hand. So we talk about security. Oh, where's my arrow? Oh, security. And you can interrupt me anytime. Security, air compressor, indoors. Like Lola in Ili putting it next to the TV. And guys, those who were afraid of it makes too much noise, it doesn't make too much noise. In my opinion, it's a white noise.
Yeah.
And white noise basically, at least to me, it puts me to sleep. So I don't know about you. How about you?
It's good stuff.
And if you don't fall asleep, it means you didn't work so hard all day.
These things are so quiet, we have them in classrooms.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And security, guys, security of not being stolen. Okay?
Yeah. Safety. No electricity in the fish tank. That's very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
Now we talk about no ground fault interrupter GPI required. I mean, Glenn is an expert, a licensed electrician. Can you give them a 2 cents on that?
Certainly. All over America and most countries, if you put an electrical outlet outside, particularly out in the weather, at grade level, you must use a ground fault interrupter. That means if you get shocked, it's going to turn off in 1/3000th of a second or 1/3000th minute second, so fast before you can be killed. So if you use electricity out in your garden, you got to have a GFI. Bad news, guys. They trip for sometimes no apparent reason at all. It's moisture, ants crawl across it, lizard crawls across somewhere. It trips off. It can't tell a real problem from a possible problem. The problem for that for school teachers, the bloody things will trip on Easter week, a 4-day weekend. They come back.
All the fish die on the weekend. Did you know
They
that?
die on the weekend.
Yeah,
That's
we know
right.
that for years.
That's right.
You know?
So if you don't have, now when I plug that air pump in inside the classroom or inside the bedroom or inside the TV room, no GFI there. That electricity is probably going to stay on.
Reliability. Air pumps over submersible. Oh, what a difference, huh?
All right, a couple of things, folks. One, the air pump never runs dry, right? Because it's always dry. So you're not going to run low and kill your pump. So now that takes away having to have the limit switch out there to save the pump. But the big one here in Hawaii, we love our volcanic cinder and using rock in our cinder beds, our biofilter beds. The problem is that rock dust destroys the little mechanical pump. They got close tolerances, and it just wears them out. So reliability, our air pumps, many of them have no moving parts whatsoever, okay?
Yep. And, you know, a lot of people is, again and again, they're asking, where do you buy your pumps? I don't know if we're going to make some commercial here or not, but...
Think of the good guys. The good guys are aquatic ecosystems, okay, now known as Pin Air.
Yep.
They're like the Sears and Roebuck of honest pricing, good, better, and best. But ourselves, we go down to our local Waimanalo feed store. You go to any aquarium store that sell the larger pump. Now, you go to an aquarium store, you're going to get a little foo-foo pump. On the other hand, go to the koi fish guy, okay, or to an aquaculture supply. They're going to sell you, and you'd be buying the lower end of it. You're going to have to buy at the lower price range of what the big boys are doing, right?
Yeah.
But you can find them, and they're about the same price of a quality submersible pump. But the submersible pump is going to take the wear and tear.
Yep.
And one of the things when you talk about, you know, we got the rock dust going through and destroying. But watch this. So you want to protect that little mechanical pump. So what do? You put a filter on it.
Here you go. Go with all the pressure. Goodbye.
And now you got to clean it. They tell you every day. Or you can clean your air compressor once a year. Which way you leaning there?
Yeah. I mean, the other thing is, you know, what we found in aquatic ecosystem and maybe others, we can get DC pumps.
You bet.
Now, the DC pump is important when you are going to use solar.
You bet.
So when you're going to use solar, why you want to go into AC? It's a waste of time. You just go directly to DC, and you have your battery, so the whole system is a DC system.
Right. Much more efficient.
Yeah. Okay. Like we say, MMB, much more better. And we're talking about filtering.
A lot easier to have a little foam filter on the air compressor, which you check maybe once a month or every 6 months, depending on the size of it. It's a lot easier to walk over and lift off the lid and rinse out a foam filter for an air filter than it is to pull up the submersible pump, remove its filter, rinse it out, and reinstall it and get it running again.
Thank you. And I want to say to all these guys that I see the note saying, where do you buy, where do you get this or that? I think what we'll do, we'll send Vanessa the links where you can buy those stuff. And when she is recording everything, going to put it on the freshwater extension, community of practice. You will have it there, and you can download and you contact them, and you can decide with whom you want to work. Let me go to the next slide. And we're talking about the advantages. We keep talking about the fact that we do aeration. Air compressor is capable of 2 and 3 functions. One is pumping the water, acts as a water aerator, and mixing. In some configurations, lift stagnant bottom water to the surface. And I think we showed it also very well in your fertilizer tank, with a tea maker.
Everywhere we go, we notice people that do use a submersible pump, they don't want to put it on the bottom in the muck and the mire and the dirt and the leaves and that. Okay. On the other hand, with the air pump,
no worries.
Anything that fits to the 1-inch pipe, she goes.
Yeah. And let's see what we got over here. Energy saving. Yes, guys, that's maybe the main thing that you have to think about. We want to make aquaponics I have to tell you, it's on the verge of if it's going to survive or not in this world, because a lot of people arguing. I know people that sometimes start aquaponics and then run out of business. And, it's like I don't want the aquaponics to become the next bubble, because bubbles tend to burst. So if we can lower the energy, we can make them survive.
Because the commercial boys are coming to me. They got the average electrical bill on a serious aquaponics.
Let me guess. $10,000 a month?
$10,000. That's when they call me.
Here you go.
And what do? We show them they use the air, and we take them down to hundreds of dollars a month instead of thousands of dollars a month.
Right. And then we talk about long life. Water is not in contact with the mechanical elements of the pump.
The moving mechanical parts.
Moving mechanical parts. And then pass-through pumping. This is something that I think Glenn touched a little bit, how you can just go and bring it higher and higher and higher if you just hook up more air along the pipes.
Along the pipe, or you pump it up. Imagine you were looking at an apartment building and you had stairwell every 10 feet. Imagine you put a 55-gallon drum on each stairwell. If you use one air pump and you pump up to the next one, then the air goes to that one and pumps the water up to the next one. Air goes to that one and pumps to the next. You go right. It could be a 50-story building and only one air pump.
So basically, I think maybe you should go stop all this aquaponics and go into construction. I mean, you're gonna make much money, I think.
Yeah, but you want to feed the world, right?
Oh yeah, I want to feed the world.
Yeah.
So guys, was the wonderful end of this webinar. Thank you for your patience. This is Glenn Martinez, and let me show you. This is how Glenn Martinez looks when he has a big mustache and he has mad hot steam, right?
Make a difference.
And
hot, hands-on training, STEAM, science, technology, engineering, agriculture, or aquaculture, or aquaponics, and then math.
And thank you very much. And you can visit the place. And we just had a wonderful aquaponic paradigm shift with the airlift. I'm Tetsuzan Beniron. This is my website. You can find me here. You can find more about our ATOL program, and which is a training program where you can. Glenn Martinez is featured over there.
Yeah.
And we have to remember that when we talked about all these wonderful things that Glenn, Liz, and Natalie shared with us, is manufacturing rights.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to manufacture it and get the rights, there's no problem. Just contact with Glenn Martinez, and he will help you through because this is under patenting. So thank you very much, and aloha.
Thank you so much, both Glenn and Denny. I just put up in the block, in the text box, the link to the survey. If you guys could give us some feedback, we'd appreciate it. It's always beneficial, and it helps us with planning future webinars and future content on the extension. This recording should be up late tomorrow on the extension. I will also make sure it gets put on Aquaculture Hub. It will be on the Learn side of the extension as well, and I can email out to anybody who wants it the link when it is available, and I will also include any links that Benny sends me and that YouTube video and the page that is going to have all the recordings from the previous one. I just put the link up for that in the chat box as well. So you can go to that page, and that's where the recordings for both the previous webinar, this webinar, and any of the materials from these webinars will be available at that site. And I will email anybody who wants notification that it's ready when it's ready tomorrow. So thank you guys so much, and we look forward to seeing you at our next part of the webinar series.
We'll let you know about the next webinar.
Mm-hmm.
We are off to lunch.
Bye.
Yes, we are going to eat fish for lunch.